Hi, Aletha here with Create Your Future and welcome to my video. I'm very excited to share my information with you today on how to create a life full of joy no matter what is taking place in your 3D reality. And then to help you understand that no matter what's taking place in your 3D reality, it's not hard and fast, it's not permanent, it's malleable, and that you have the ability in you to change any circumstance in your life to be what you want it to be, not how it's showing up currently. And to understand that the way it's showing up now is from an assumption that you may have had or that you are supporting right now with an assumption that perhaps you're not even aware of. So today we're going to talk about all of that. But before we do that, let me just remind you that Create Your Future is giving away a free course, and it's how to find your blocks to manifest anything fast, which again is so important. That's what we're going to talk about. I'm using the word assumption, but it's the same thing. What am I assuming that is in the way of my manifesting the thing my heart desires? We're going to talk about how to discover that, how to modify those to move them into being in alignment with what it is your heart desires, so that you have success manifesting, and so even in the process, not that you get joy at the end of your manifestation, but that you learn how to be joyful throughout the entire process while the manifestation is in the process of developing and coming into your 3D reality. You may only see it internally right now, but feel joy knowing that eventually it's going to show up in your 3D reality, because that's the law and it has to. That's just the way it works. I want to remind you also that I have courses available. Check all of those out. They are available for you at $50 a piece. And then also I do coaching, so you can check that out as well. The links are in the description box below. All right, assumptions are so important. I want to read something for you that Neville Goddard has written. He says, the drama of life is a psychological one. So the drama of life is a psychological one up here. And that the whole of it is written and produced by what? Our assumptions, how we think about things, what I assume to be my truth or the truth of someone else, which is another way of saying what concept I have of myself, what concept I have of other things or other people. And it's all our lives. I'll read that phrase again. I love what he says. The drama of life is a psychological one, and the whole of it is written and produced by our assumptions. So whatever you are assuming is writing your story, and then that produces it, because what I assume that I am or what I assume someone else is must come in to fruition. It must manifest because it's what I believe is my truth. And the universe gives us who we believe we are, not what we want to be. So it's so important to learn how to, he says this, I like this too. Learn the art of assumption, for only in that way can you create your own happiness. And happiness is great and wonderful. I'll be happy when I get my brand new car. I'll be happy when I have $1 million in the bank. I'll be happy when I don't have this pain anymore. I'll be happy, I'll be happy, I'll be happy. But what about in the process of manifesting what you want through your assumptions and the feeling that you have with regards to those assumptions? What about joy in the process? It's not about searching for happiness. Happiness is now before it shows up. The thing shows up. And so that's where the joy comes in. If I am happy now with my life as it is, knowing that it is going to change because I have modified my assumptions to move into a different outcome than the one that has been showing up in my 3D reality, so that there's joy in that. I mean, if I'm thinking right now, supposing I have a deficit financially of some kind, and I could worry about it and be all crazy about it and anxious and go out into the world and try to find different ways of solving it and creating more issues and crying about it and whatever it might be and worrying myself sick over it. Or I can close my eyes and imagine that I have what I want right now internally, and then allowing it to come to me. That's not saying that I'm closing a blind eye to paying my bills and that I just sit back and do nothing and imagine. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is it's a mindset. I am wealthy or I am poor. What is my assumption? My assumption is that I have a hard time coming up with money. I have a hard time earning a good living. And money is hard to come by. I never have enough. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. If I have those mindsets, that's coming from a place of lack. If I change my mindset, yes, I pay my bills in the 3D. And I do the very best I can with doing that with the amount of money that's currently in my bank account. However, internally, I am living from a place of joy, knowing that what I am assuming now is very different than what I assumed for those circumstances to show up in my 3D reality. So therefore, I am assuming now that I am wealthy, that I have more than enough money to cover all of my expenses, that I always have money to be and do and have and anything I want, and to share that with other people and be generous in whatever way I deem important. And so it is walking out the 3D from the assumptions that you used to have, while you're living internally from the new assumption that says I'm wealthy. So in the old assumption, you're working out how you're going to pay your bills when you have a deficit of some kind. But internally, you're living in a state of joy because you know that you have more than enough money. Because you know that, and why do you feel joy? Because as you change that concept or that assumption from not having enough money to always having enough money, there's joy in that, there's relief in that, there's peace in that, and you live internally there. It's kind of like a story that Neville Goddard told of his mentor. Abdullah told him when Neville wanted to go to Barbados, which was his home, and he didn't have the fare money to buy the fare to go there, and so he told him, walk down the streets of New York City, seeing the streets of New York City with your physical eye, but with your mental eye, with your heart, you're walking down the streets of Barbados. You're feeling the sea breeze on your face. You're seeing the ocean. You're seeing the palm trees. You're feeling the warmth compared to where you are now in New York City. You're feeling all of that internally. So you're literally it's kind of a duality. I'm walking into 3D, which we know isn't real. It's just a reflection of our past thoughts. And while internally, I'm literally walking on the streets of Barbados. And that's what Neville did. And Neville actually had a surprise one day when he got home. There was an envelope slid under his door, and it was the fare to go to Barbados. His brother had sent him the money. And so all he did was lived in a state of consciousness that I'm already in Barbados. Live in a state of consciousness that I already have the money that I choose. I already have more than enough money. I'm in abundance. I have unlimited abundance financially. I'm wealthy. Live in that state of consciousness. And Neville Goddard has a phrase that I want to read to you. Let's see if I can find it. It's in the book called The Power of Awareness. And it goes like this. Here it is. All right. This day, this very day, start your new life, which means change your assumptions from what they have been to what you truly want them to be, or what they need to be in order for what you want to manifest to come into fruition. This very day, start your new life. Approach every experience in a new frame of mind, a new assumption, with a new state of consciousness, a new awareness of your circumstances, of your desire, what you see. What I see mentally is what I'm going to experience externally. So we're going to assume the best. That's what we're going to do. And he says, he even goes further to say, make believe, great wonders are possible. And so, as Neville walked down the streets in New York City externally with his physical eyes, internally with his spiritual eyes, he was seeing Barbados. and feeling all of the wonders of Barbados and what he saw, and the temperatures and the breeze and all of that. He was sensing that internally. That's make-believe, right? It's believing, but if you and I hear some people say, well, fake it until you make it, or make-believe until it feels real and natural. You know, when you first start maybe changing your assumption, or walking through your financial issues or your health issues, or the fact that you're not with a specific person that you want to be with, and you think you're deluding yourself, because in my mind's eye, internally, I'm seeing myself with that person and we're happy, or I'm seeing myself completely healthy and I'm vibrant and energetic, or I'm seeing myself wealthy and I have more than enough money to cover everything all the time, no stress. And I'm seeing myself that way internally, and then people will say to me, and I felt it too a long time ago, don't you feel delusional, like you're pretending, you're make-believe. It's not make-believe, it's the true real reality. And that's the twister of our mind, because we think that the external world is real. It is not real. It is shadows. It is a reflection of your past thoughts and assumptions. Whatever you were assuming that was true about you has to be pushed out, has to be reflected back. And that's what you're seeing in your 3D. So if you base your life off of the circumstances of your 3D, then you're deluding yourself. You can't do that. You have to base your life off of what you're seeing with your mind's eye in your spiritual realm. I am wealthy now. I see me being wealthy. I see me being able to buy anything I choose, anytime I choose. I see me healthy, unlimited physical ability in every area of my life. I see me energetic and vibrant. I see me with my specific person, and we're enjoying a beautiful, loving, committed relationship together. And so you live in that world internally until it hardens into fact, as Neville says, which means until it pushes out. Because your subconscious mind, see, you're not deluding anything. What you don't realize, or what we haven't realized, is that your subconscious mind doesn't know when you imagine that that's not your 3D reality happening, what we call a real reality. No, to it, whatever you imagine is the true reality to your subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind sees you being wealthy. The universe sees you being wealthy. The universe sees you being healthy. The universe sees you being in a loving relationship. And that is the true reality. So the delusion is when you get caught up in the 3D, thinking that's your real reality and you're stuck there, and that it's impossible to change because it's hard facts. It's not malleable, but it is malleable. It's malleable so much, so easily. All you gotta do is change your thought, change your assumption about it. Stop thinking that it's hard fact and it's fact and there's nothing more you can do. Stop thinking that and start thinking in terms of the opposite of what it's showing up. If you're not with your SP and they're with somebody else and it just looks impossible, it's not a hard fact. All you have to do is change your assumptions and that situation will change. Same thing goes for money or health or anything you want. And so it's really important then to realize that the external world is not, you're not stuck there, it's malleable. And it's really easy to change. Theoretically, all you have to do is change your assumption about the things that are showing up in your life. If you're assuming money is hard to come by, stop and assume money is easy and effortless. And it comes to you like so easily. And you have opportunities all the time to earn or for more money to come into your reality. Same goes for health. And if it looks impossible with your specific person, and you have all these feelings and thoughts about, well, am I controlling them? What about free will? Just stop all of that. This is your quantum bubble reality. And in your quantum bubble reality, no one has any free will but you. They are out picturing of you. You're the only person in your consciousness, and all the people in your consciousness are the people you put there by your thoughts, by your assumptions. You are aware of them, and so they show up. Now, they show up according to what you assume they are. So if you assume that you're walking around sad and hurt and telling people that your SP is with somebody else, and even if you're not telling anybody that and you're telling yourself that, then then that's what has to show up, because your assumptions are what creates your reality. Once you learn in the present moment to control the assumption you plan to think, then you can change your world. So you can change your assumption from they don't want to be with me to they do, and you live from that and you feel that feeling. And as long as you stick with it and persist with it, it must harden into fact and must come into your reality. It must show up in the 3D reality. It must become a reflection. Your assumptions are all changeable, and that's where you control them, in the present moment. And then once you've done that, you simply stay with that assumption, assuming that assumption, whatever it is that you want, perfect health, SP, money, you stay with that assumption. You assume the feelings that would be yours if that assumption were yours right now. So you assume the feeling of I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am in a loving, beautiful relationship, I am loved. And you live in that feeling because that's the magnet that pulls it into you. And you do that, and you are, no matter what's showing up in your 3D, because the internal world is the true reality. Whatever you think and feel internally gets pushed out and becomes your next 3D reality, so that you are constantly creating. But you got to just pay attention to what you're creating, right? What you're choosing, you're selecting, you're constantly selecting. So select the best, the noblest, the thing that your heart wants the most, and reject anything other than that. Do not allow yourself, and that's, you take control of your mind. Do not allow yourself to feel sad and weepy over a situation. No, if you're assuming that you're with your SP, would you be sad and weepy? No. You'd be happy and joyful and energetic and full of life. You'd be heaven on earth. There's where you stay. There's where you live. There's where you, like Neville, he walked down the streets of New York City, living internally, walking down the streets of Barbados. You walk through your 3D right now while it's still showing the old thoughts that are still being reflected back. You walk through that 3D while you are internally living in the world of you and your SP together, of you with perfect health, of you with great wealth. You live there now, internally. That is not the delusion, not at all, because your subconscious mind and universe doesn't know when you imagine that it's not truly happening. It doesn't say, oh, that's just an imaginal, that's just fantasy, it's just imagining. No, it doesn't do that. It takes it as the real true deal, because it is. Because if you imagine you're walking the streets of, according to Neville, you imagine you're walking the streets of Paris, you are. Your imagination is the true real reality. The 3D is the fake one. It's the pretend. It's the delusion. So once you learn that, and once you start to live by that, and give yourself the freedom to really enjoy your life internally before any of it ever shows up externally, that's when you have conquered and this whole manifesting thing. Because it's nothing more. You're manifested the old stuff, you can manifest the new. You had an assumption that brought the negative things into your life. Now, change that assumption to a positive something with regards to whatever it is you're wanting, and live from that assumption and feel those feelings and stick with it and stick with it until it shows up in your 3D. And that's all you do. You choose your assumption. So you start this day. You start this day with a new life. Today is the beginning of your new life. Today is the beginning of a new frame of mind. Today is the beginning of a new state of consciousness, a new awareness that I am now this person because I have now changed my assumption. You start with a new assumption that I am wealthy, that I am healthy, that I am with a specific my person and we're happy. And as you do that, then you feel joy. And you don't have to have it show up in the 3D to feel that joy. You don't have to have it show up in the 3D to be happy about it. You can be happy about it. You need to be happy about it first inside for it to push out and then be reflected back. So everything is really, your whole world is based on your assumptions. What are you assuming about yourself and about other people? If those things are not in alignment with what you're desiring to experience, then you need to change your assumption to bring it into alignment with what it is you are desiring to experience. And then that's going to connect, and then it will push out, and it will then enable you to manifest whatever it is your heart is desiring. What are your assumptions? What are you assuming about everything in your life? Make a list. If something is not working the way you want it in your life, sit down and make a list of all the things you think about it. What are your assumptions about yourself and about that person or that thing, that situation? And then if anything is not in alignment with you being the person you truly want to be, then you need to change that assumption to come into alignment with what you want. Change it completely and live from that and persist in that, and know that the delusion is out there in the 3D, not in here. This is the true reality, and this is what will manifest your next 3D reality. So in the now, you have the control of your assumptions. Assume the best, assume the noblest, assume I am the things my heart desires, and feel those feelings. That will get pushed out of you and reflected back as your next 3D reality. It's the only way to do it. And use your imagination. That's the easiest way. You get an assumption that I am wealthy. Now, create an imaginal scene of you living out being wealthy, like on a major vacation somewhere, or having the income to help somebody that needs a generous amount of money, that you have it, and you have so much that it's not hurting you in any way, shape, or form, that you always have a generous amount of money. You can do that, or with an SP or health. Imaginally, 5 to 7 seconds, imagine yourself at the end of already being whatever it is your heart desires, having it. Feeling the joy of that, feeling the love, that whatever it is, feeling it is so important. That's the fuel, the energy that pushes it out there and has it reflected back to you. So check your assumptions. What are they? And then imagine yourself. Because if you have an imaginal scene that's telling you that you're living from the end, that I am a wealthy person, or I am healthy, or I'm with my SP, or whatever it is that you want. You have an imaginal scene from the end of having that, and during the time that you're doing the imaginal scene, you do feel the feelings, but you have an assumption out there. And I had a client that did this. A person was very diligent with imagining and with what they thought was a good mental diet, until we recognized that the person had a negative assumption. They assumed this person always was, or had a weakness to, or had an inability to let go of abusive relationships. So then the person kept doing things in their reality that were hurtful, because they were acting out. They had to conform to that assumption that they couldn't let go of abusive relationships. And so they kept showing up as a person not able to let go of abusive relationships, no matter what my client said or did or imagined. So once we recognized that, we were able to change that assumption to this person is whole and healthy and stable emotionally, and all the positive things, letting go of that old assumption where they were dependent on abusive behaviors, to being a healthy, strong person who loved and respected themselves and other people. And so we changed the assumption from that negative to the positive, and then guess what happens? The manifestation comes in just like that. You've got to make sure your assumptions are in alignment with your imaginal scenes, with your desire, because they can alter it, slow it down, or prevent it altogether. So if you need help with this, because sometimes we do, and my client did, and sometimes I have in the past, if you need help, I'm like, oh, why was I thinking that? Because it's just so ingrained in us, we're not even aware sometimes, and that's where another person comes in and can help you. So anyway, and especially if you've been trained like we have. So if you do have an issue that you're struggling with to manifest, and you think that it might have something to do, which I'm pretty sure it does, your assumptions about that situation, or it could be something not even related that somehow connects, then schedule an appointment and talk to one of the coaches, me or somebody, whoever you resonate with. Blessings.